Stateside, the NBA is set to become the first major North American sports league to resume play after the league's Board of Governors approved a 22-team format for restarting the season in late July at the Disney campus near Orlando, Florida. ESPN reported the vote was 29-1 in favor of the proposal, with only the Portland Trail Blazers dissenting. The format calls for each team playing 8 games to determine playoff seeding, plus the possible utilization of a play-in tournament for the final spot in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference postseason fields. Again, flexibility, making a plan, and getting and sticking to it, Mike. The NBA has shown the way.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. I think more and more we are beginning to see what the Bundesliga did, I think, in Germany, put a lot of pressure on sports associations, sporting organizations, leagues, not just as far as football is concerned, but the rest of the world, because the Bundesliga has shown that it can be done. It may not be the best, it may not be the best product aesthetically, it may not be 100%, but they're at least making an effort to make sure that games are being played and the league is completed. And so the question that is being asked, I think, is what excuse do you have? What excuses can you throw up to justify why you're not going to finish your league? And so the Americans, as we know, Barry, have always had one eye on the money and one eye on public perception. And so they were never going to cancel their leagues, because the American spirit is one of defiance. It's one of being indefatigable in the face of overwhelming odds. You know, we will do this. We will get the job done. That is
We are America.
We are America, the United States of America, or these United States of America. So that's what they're going to do, Barry. And I like the concept. For me, like I said, as long as it's going to work out to a playoff system that's going to determine a champion, that for me is great. Even if it's not what we're used to, at least they're getting some sort of competition going.
And Chris, Mike pointing out there that it's important for it to ultimately result in a sporting result, as it were. And that seems to be what this is directing us to. Now, give us a synopsis of how it will actually work. And they're talking about this 22-team plan. How will it work?
Okay, so basically you've got the 22 teams, and all of these were holding playoff spots when the season was stopped. And then there's other clubs within the 6 games of the postseason berth. So what will happen is that there'll be 9 teams vying for the remaining 3 playoff berths. So you've got in the East, Brooklyn, Orlando, and Washington are in the race for 2 spots. And then in the West, you've got Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix, who will jostle for 1 spot. So it also comes down to if the gap between the 8th place and the 9th place in either conference is 4 games or less. When the shortened regular season ends, those teams are going to go head to head for the 8th seed, and then the team in 9th place will have to sweep both games of a 2-game series, and then the 8th seed would otherwise advance into the postseason.
And again, that gives us a bit of a picture of the thinking around it. And look, American sport has always had the knack of giving you something that is great, and then giving you a cherry on top. And in truth, this is going to arouse a lot of interest on the basis that it's a congregation of teams in one. It's almost a tournament format, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. Tournament format, everything is sort of like on fast forward, as it were. I think it's a great spectacle for the fans. And American sport has always been TV driven. You know, you take a look like a sport like basketball, for example, which we are talking about right now. That's sort of like TV driven. And so I don't think they're going to miss out on much in terms of, you know, there not being a lot of people in the arena, etc. The action is what really gets to you. And because basketball by its very nature is fast paced, you know, action swings from one end of the court to the other in almost just 2 or 3 seconds, you know, and the scoring is done regularly, frequently. So in terms of the action sequences in basketball, they occur every 4 or 5 seconds, there's something happening. So fans, you're naturally glued to the television set. It's not about the crowd like in football, because in football, you know, when the ball is transitioning from defense into midfield and then into attack, that's when the fans come into play. That's when they cheer. That's when they sing. That's when they whistle. That's when they urge the team on. And so the atmosphere in the stands is a big contributor. In American sport, like basketball to be specific, the fans, to be honest, are there, but you are all glued to what's happening on court.
It's certainly true. And that TV money is very important to the league in terms of keeping it going, because that's what keeps the NBA as lucrative as it absolutely is. And Mike bringing a very important point there, which is one of the other considerations and some of the other considerations, Chris, that they have in doing all this. The other one obviously being the testing plan around players that are going to this Disney shortened season, as it were. And then, of course, like we quite rightly point out, the financial ramifications. And it is noted that if all 22 teams that are going to Disney play their allotted 8 games before the postseason begins, the NBA would play 1,059 games in this regular season. That means 171 regular season games would be cancelled, which could cost players around 600 million in salaries. That is a huge number if you think about it, in terms of one season. And if you drill it down to a single player, the players can't be happy.
The players definitely won't be happy with that scenario. And like we said, a lot of what we're seeing in terms of the NBA coming back is resting on the money. If you take a look at the amount that just in terms of sponsorship alone, this runs into the tens of billions of dollars that is going to be going into this. So the fact that they creating some sort of system where they go off to Disney and they manage to finish the season, a lot of it is to do with that money, the sponsorship, that money that comes in through the NBA to the teams as well. So definitely that 600 million, big figure.
And that is the reason why you get the head of state, Donald Trump, talking about sport, talking about baseball coming back, talking about NFL starting on time, and then, of course, talking about the NBA. That is the significance of the sporting economy in America. And it's a little bit tragic, Alois, when you look at the scenario here on the continent, where many countries are responding to the coronavirus pandemic. The presidents of those countries are responding to the coronavirus pandemic. But very little are we hearing about sport and its return, as it were, being spoken of by the highest office in the land. At best, a minister will talk about sport.
Yeah, that brings us to the very issue we discussed, that we don't really take sport very very seriously. You know, it's nothing. You know, it's like it's nothing. Whereas in other countries, that's actually the priority. You know, in Europe, in America, the sport is actually the highest priority. That sport has to come back in. You remember Donald Trump was actually on CNN actually declaring that we can't live without sport. So sport must come back. So they are reacting to their president, who actually talked about it in public, that sport has to go on. So here, you know, we are actually crying about the facilities. You know, we can't say sport must go on when we actually don't have the facilities. We don't spruce them up, we don't renovate them, we don't keep up, we don't build new facilities. So it shows that we're not really serious about sport. We just don't care. I said we don't care. That's why you don't see a lot of people talking about sport. But in other countries, it takes high priority. Even here next door in South Africa, sport is taking very big priority. They are prioritizing sport.
They certainly are, and we hope to see that begin to happen, because sport in itself is a huge industry. Now, back to the NBA, teams are likely to be allowed to open training camps in late June before arriving at the Disney complex around the 7th of July. Once their camps will continue, and teams will likely have the chance to have some scrimmages or preseason games against other clubs before the regular season resumes. The NBA on its way back, just like most other sport around the world.